so they won't get the truth out to us.
Hey, it's Tavis. We appreciate all that love, let me tell you, because we may very well be under attack on all sides. Just because you don't believe in conspiracy theories don't mean they ain't after you. But in reality, sometimes stuff happens with the signal from the studio to the tower, which sends our programming to your car, home, office, or your transistor radio. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app, the sound is clear as a bell all day, all night, anywhere in the world, from Los Angeles to Lagos. So we love all of our listeners, no matter how you hear us. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app and hear that richness, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. But don't take my word for it. Download the KBLA 1580 app right now. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I approve this message.
1, 2, 3, go! I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth. But I'll be alright, as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will, yo. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back in style.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first, music historian and composer Benjamin Barson talks about his new text, Brass Roots Democracy. Brass Roots Democracy, and what we can learn from jazz history and music at a critical time like this for our democracy. On the B side of our two, environmental justice advocate Dr. Adrienne Hollis on her work with the National Wildlife Federation as part of our continuing year-long series on climate justice, climate equity, and climate resilience. In our third hour, a conversation with Blake Leeper, an 8-time Paralympic track and field medalist. In the 400 meters, he has clocked the fastest time ever by a double leg amputee. Whatever you feel down about today, hear me. Blake's story is an inspiring one, and I invite you to stick around for our final hour today and be empowered by Blake's story when he joins us live in studio. But in this first hour today, two more conversations. On the B side of this hour, according to the data, teen girls in America are facing a serious national crisis. Teen girls. We will talk with one of America's foremost advocates for those teen girls, Latara Harris, on the backside of this hour. But we commence today's show talking politics with the historian, who has correctly predicted 9 of the last 10 presidential elections. Some call him the prophet of presidential elections. American University professor Alan Lichtman has made his prediction for 2024, and he joins us now to talk about how he arrived at his choice. Professor, how are you today, sir?
Great. Good to talk to you, as always.
It has been too long. Good to hear your voice again, but I wanted to get you on as quickly as I could. I know everybody's been after you. Given that some days ago you made your prediction for 2024, I'm not one to tease the audience too much about this. Plus, it's been news everywhere, anyway, I should say. So tell me who you chose for 2024 to win this election.
Yes. I made my prediction advisedly before the debate that everyone says was pivotal, because my system, the 13 keys to the White House, doesn't look at the events of the campaign. It looks at the fundamentals of the strength and performance of the White House party. And based on my system, I have predicted that we are going to have a path-breaking president, that Kamala Harris will become the first woman president of the United States, at least cracking, if not shattering the glass ceiling, and she will become the first president of African and East Asian descent, which kind of foreshadows, Tavis, where our country is going. We are rapidly becoming a majority-minority country. Old white guys like me are dwindling.
You are indeed, but don't dwindle too fast. I need 25 more minutes out of you to unpack how you arrived at this decision, so don't dwindle too quickly. You said a moment ago there are 13 keys to how you do this. As I mentioned a moment ago, you have successfully predicted these races for president, 9 out of the last 10 contests. That's a pretty strong record. Nobody, to my mind, has done it better than Alan Lichtman, so I wanted to get him on to understand better how he does this. So just give me a broad understanding of what these 13 keys are for how you make these pretty much on-point predictions every 4 years.
Yes, I would say also, I'm not going to quibble, but 10 out of 10, because as I proved in my report to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, because of the tossing of votes cast by black voters in Florida in 2000, Gore should have won that election.
Fair enough.
But let's leave that for the moment. All right. As I said, the keys look at the fundamentals. There are 13 of them, and if 6 or more go against the White House party, they're predicted losers. Fewer than 6, they're predicted winners. And they include midterm elections, incumbency, contests for the incumbent party nomination, third parties, short and long-term economy, social unrest, policy change, scandal, foreign/military failure and success. And only 2 keys have anything to do with the candidates, and they're very high threshold keys, asking if they are one of the truly inspirational, once-in-a-generational, transformational, across-the-board candidates like Franklin Roosevelt or Ronald Reagan. And I've been using this system successfully since I first predicted Ronald Reagan's reelection in April 1982, when 60% of Americans said he was too old, when his approval ratings were historically low, and the country was in the middle of the worst recession then since the Great Depression. And I stood virtually alone in predicting Donald Trump's win in 2016, which, Travis, you can imagine did not make me very popular in 90% plus Democratic D.C., where I teach at American University. But the system is purely nonpartisan, purely scientific.
I remember that.
That's the basis of my prediction.
I remember that moment quite well. You did catch a little hell, but you turned out to be right. So Alan Lichtman is now 10 for 10, and he could be 11 for 11 if Kamala Harris pulls this off as he predicts. Now that you have a better sense of what those 13 keys are, let's dig a little deeper when we come forward with Alan Lichtman on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Tavis Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here's what happens when you advertise on KBLA Talk 1580.
3, possibly 4 weeks ago, I heard an advertisement on your radio station from a company called Grid Solar. I would love to have that phone number so I can reach out to them with reference to solar panels being installed on my property.
Our listeners are aware and engaged, but more than that, they are loyal. When they hear empowering messages that uplift their community and help them live better lives, they respond. No medium reaches this coveted black audience like KBLA Talk 1580. So, hit us up today at smb@kbla1580.com and let us help you connect with our loyal listeners. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black under the bud.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
Our guest is Alan Lichtman, American University professor, who I'm honored to have on this program. I've known him for years and talked to any number of times over these years. Why? Because he's brilliant, number one. But number two, he's pretty good at this prognostication thing. Perhaps he wouldn't call it prognostication. He has 13 keys for how he decides who's going to win every presidential election, and he's done it correctly 10 out of 10 times, going back to the era of Ronald Reagan. Alan, it didn't take long for this question to pop up in all of my socials. I know the answer, but I want to give you a chance to respond. So the obvious question that people are asking already, just 5 minutes of this conversation essentially, is whether or not you had gotten around to making your prediction, doing your research with your 13 keys before Joe Biden passed the baton to Kamala Harris. Would Joe Biden have won had he stayed in?
You know, I don't answer hypotheticals because you never know. But I will tell you this, and I think this is more informative.
Mm-hmm.
The keys fully took into account the transition. They indicated, by the way, I was very critical of the Democrats for publicly trashing their sitting president.
Mm-hmm.
You know, spineless Democrats once again. But and I thought they were heading for disaster by pushing Biden out and having a big party brawl, which would cost them the contest key and the incumbency key. But as it turned out, they grew a spine and a brain. Maybe they listened to me, and they united behind Harris, which saved the contest key. So the transition only cost them one key, the incumbency key.
Mm-hmm.
But the transition to Harris probably helped them with two other keys. The third-party key. Voters no longer had to choose between two old white guys. I hate saying that, being an old white guy myself, but it's true. And that, I think, contributed to the fizzling of RFK Jr. And then social unrest. The protest was aimed at Biden. But with Biden in the background and Harris out front, the protest fizzled. So the keys fully take into account the unique circumstances of this election.
Because I'm a geek this way, tell me how you developed these 13 keys to the extent you can or will.
Yeah, I developed them. I would love to say by ruining my eyes in the archives. Tavis, if I had to tell you that, to quote the late, not-so-great Richard Nixon, that would be wrong.
Yeah.
I developed them by accident when I ran across the world's leading authority in earthquake predictions, Vladimir Kailasporak from Moscow, when we were both distinguished visiting scholars at Caltech in Southern California, and we utilized his methodology of pattern recognition. Remember, this is 81, to look at every American presidential election from the horse and buggy days of politics, the election of Lincoln in 1860, through the election of Reagan in 1980, and looking at those 120 years, the methodology of pattern recognition brought to the fore the 13 keys which best distinguish between what we call stability, the White House party keeps the White House, and in geophysical terms, earthquake, the White House party is booted out. So it was a very extraordinary collaboration and a lot of research that led to the 13 keys.
So when you wake up on any given day, you mentioned this earlier, paraphrasing here, that in these elections, clearly there are ebbs and flows. This thing would dip back and forth between now and November 5, to be sure. So when you wake up on a day like today, Alan Lichtman, and you see stories in the New York Times that suggest that Kamala Harris has outspent Donald Trump 20-1, and yet this race is still tight. When you wake up on a day like today and you read the Times Siena poll that Trump has pulled ahead in Arizona and is now leading her in tight races in places like Georgia and North Carolina, tight swing states. When you wake up and read polls like I'm seeing today, that despite the Mark Robinson drama in North Carolina, as I just mentioned, Trump still slightly leads there. I'm going to play a clip from Mark Robinson here in a moment, so just stand by for that. But when you wake up on any given day and you see news that could suggest that your prediction might be wrong, might be off, given what we're being told every day in real time in these various polls, how do you process that?
Yes, I process it very simply by saying the keys are the North Star of prediction. They do not sway. They do not ebb and flow according to the ephemeral day-to-day events of the campaign. That's why I was able to go against all the polls and all the pundits in 2016 and predict Trump's victory. In 1988, I predicted George H.W. Bush's victory in the spring, late spring, when he was 17 points down. You remember that, to Mike Dukakis. Every pundit had written him off. I stuck with my prediction of Obama when he was destroyed. You remember that in the first debate against Romney?
Sure.
Only 20% thought he won the debate, and the polls swung the other way. So if I followed all the various polls, which are all over the map, the everyday events, I'd be wrong a lot of the time. That's what makes the keys different. They stand above. The big message is it's governing, not campaigning, that counts. And the keys, therefore, differ from all other methods, which are so frequently wrong, as we saw in 2016.
I want to go back to 2016. I'm going to tap into your memory bank here just a bit. Hope I'm not digging too deep here. But what do you recall, Professor Lichtman, about Trump and these keys in 2016 versus the keys that he does not apparently have in 2024? Can you compare and contrast that for me? Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yes and no.
Yeah.
It does, but remember, in 2016, we had a very different situation in the country. In both cases, though, think about this. Trump was the challenger, right? He was not the incumbent, and the keys are measured against the incumbent. And the difference is, for example, in the second Obama term, there was no big policy change, obviously, from the first term. That's one of my keys. Obviously, there was a huge policy change from Trump to Biden, so that key changed. Another key that changed was the contest key. We know in 2016, the Democrats ripped themselves apart. You remember that in the bloody contest between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. That's another difference between the 2 years. So the keys change over time.
Mark Robinson, I mentioned earlier. We all know this story. I was out last week, but following this story as best I could from afar. And the things that Mark Robinson has been accused of saying about Dr. King, about transgender people, et cetera, by now, after being gone for a week, you've all heard. I don't need to repeat for this audience.
No, I heard it.
Heard it. Everybody heard it. What is interesting, though, is that as recent as today, Mark Robinson has said he is not getting out of this race in North Carolina. There are concerns about that for Donald Trump. Before I get into that with Alan Lichtman, let me just play this quick soundbite today from Mark Robinson.
You've got these news cameras, news reporters, pens, pencils, your microphones. This is what you're focused on? You're not focused on the things that we talked about standing up there about our economy? You're not focused on those things. I am. I'm going to remain focused on those things. And you better understand, I am coming after CNN full throttle. But we have got to put the people first. And in order to put the people first, we've got to concentrate on this campaign. And that is exactly what we're going to do. That's exactly what we're going to do. Thank you. No more questions. No more questions.
There you hear Mark Robinson, the African-American conservative candidate for governor, Republican, of course, in North Carolina, refusing to answer his reporter's question, saying he's staying in this race. There are concerns that his staying in the race, even though Trump, of course, has tried to avoid him, there are concerns that this might drag down Trump's numbers in North Carolina and not allow him to win that state. I'm not so sure I buy that, in part because twice Trump's been on the ballot, and he won in North Carolina when the Republican candidate for governor lost. So let me repeat that. Trump has run twice in North Carolina, obviously. He won both times while the Republican candidate for governor lost. So there's no history so far of Trump being dragged down in North Carolina by the shenanigans of a particular Republican. We shall see what happens this time around. But I raise this to you, Alan Lichtman, only because those keys, again, are different than the stuff we cover every single day. But I found it fascinating, again, while I was away, just kind of watching this from a distance, to see a guy like Trump, with all that he has said and done, feeling the need to back away from somebody like this. It's really kind of fascinating for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's quite extraordinary. You know, you can say what you want about Robinson. I'm not going to get into it. But, you know, look at all the things Trump has said.
Yeah, exactly.
Bragged about grabbing women by their private parts.
Exactly.
Remember, all the pundits said he's done, he's finished. Normal political, analysis of what he says, what his supporters say, don't seem to carry much weight. And again, these are not the kind of things that influence my keys, and that's what makes the keys entirely different. I understand you guys in the media, who I love, have to cover the election every day. You can't just say, Lichtman makes this prediction, see you in 2 months. But that's the beauty of the keys. They're different.
Hey, Alan, I wish I could say that. I wish I could just stand down, because these campaigns are so long. I've complained about it repeatedly. I wish that we could do this in like 3 to 6 months. I think Kamala Harris has shown you can run a pretty decent campaign with a shorter runway. So I wish I didn't have to do this every single day. Man, how I wish I could say Alan has called it. I will talk to you about politics on November the 6th. But you're right. Doesn't quite work that way. I wish I could, though. Let me just ask you this, though. You mentioned the Al Gore race, and I was discussing that on this program a few weeks ago. I'm still mad at Al Gore for allowing the Supreme Court to steal that from him. Don't get me started about the recount and the mistakes.
Don't get me started on the mistakes
all the mistakes that Al Gore
yeah.
made. Jesus, don't get me started on that. But I come back to that because we all know, you know better than most, again, the drama, the shenanigans that happened, that took place in that election. One would not be necessarily out on a limb to suggest that we could have, if this is the tightest race in history, or one of, we could have that same kind of drama this time around, which again would get your prediction in a little bit of trouble, perhaps.
That's certainly possible. Look, I'm not so arrogant as to say I can't be wrong. I'm not so arrogant as to say there can't be something extraordinary out of the precedent of so many decades of politics, like we saw in 2000. 537 votes, Tavis, out of 6 million cast. It was a once in a the only time in history was that anywhere near that close. Mm-hmm. Could it happen again? I suppose it's not impossible, but there's no way you can know that in advance. That's why I stick with the keys.
Let me put a finer point on it. I take your point. What I'm pressing toward is that if this race is really close, Trump and his team are going to go, and his team all across the country, they're going to dig in on this. And if they dig in like George W. Bush dug in, and the Supreme Court comes to his rescue like they did with George Bush, you see where I'm going here. So I'm not even talking about the fact you could be
impossible.
Yeah, that's my point. Not that you would be wrong, but that if he again, acts like Bush did, and the Supreme Court saves him, it throws everything into tatters.
God, I hope not. For our sake of our democracy, we can't stand that. But one thing, and I've got to go in a minute,
sure.
But one thing is a little different, Tavis. In 2020, when Trump tried to overturn the results of the election, he had all the power of the sitting president. He doesn't have that this time around. He doesn't have the same kind of power. And last time the Supreme Court was very good in staying out of this. They didn't take any of the cases that were brought to them. Will that hold this time? I can't say.
We both got to run in 60 seconds. Here's my last question with a minute to go here. The uncommitted, tell me something. Tell me anything.
Yeah. Very, very few uncommitted in this election. And I don't look at individual voter groups, but both campaigns stepping outside the keys have to really appeal to two things. They've got to turn out their base, and they've got to move swing voters, very few of them, and those two things are in tension. And how the campaigns maneuver that tension will very much indicate how good they are at campaigning.
So it is, my calendar reads Monday, September 23rd. You stand by your prediction that Kamala Harris will win this election November 5, 2024.
Absolutely. And unlike clerks like Nate Silver who compile polls and just say, 80% chance Clinton will win, but I told you 20% chance she will lose. I go out on a limb, Tavis, and you can find me right or wrong.
Alan Lichtman, I always enjoy talking to you, man. Thanks for the prediction. Thanks for the conversation. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. All the best to you.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Just getting started here on Tavis Smiley. A lot more to come when we come forward.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Missouri Governor Mike Parson is considering a clemency plea by death row inmate Marcellus Williams. Williams, who is black, is scheduled to be executed tomorrow for a 1998 murder. A tropical storm or hurricane could develop this week in the Gulf of Mexico. The National Hurricane Center gives it a 70% chance that a system will organize enough to become a tropical depression or named storm over the next few days. Testimony continues today after the jury heard more from Memphis, Tennessee police officer James Harvey on Friday in the Tyree Nichols trial. Harvey spoke of use of force by former officer Demetrius Haley during prior arrests. Chief Medical Examiner Marco Ross took the stand next to explain the results of the African-American man's autopsy. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Staples prints anything you need for your business, like banners, flyers, and signs. And Staples will beat any price quote. Plus, now print more, save more, up to $150 off your print purchase. Offer ends 11/2. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details or staples.com/price match for price match guarantee.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the heroes in the Rams' 27-24 win over the 49ers Sunday was an unknown and undrafted rookie named Xavier Smith, a graduate from HBCU Florida A&M. Playing in his first NFL regular season game, Smith returned a punt 37 yards to put the Rams at the 50-yard line with 42 seconds left in the fourth quarter. 3 plays later, Joshua Carty kicked a 37-yard field goal with 2 seconds left to give the Rams a comeback win. Rams coach Sean McVay gave Smith a game ball inside a jubilant Rams locker room. Things were not so festive inside the Chargers locker room. They lost at Pittsburgh 20-10 and may have lost quarterback Justin Herbert for a while. Herbert re-injured his left ankle in the third quarter and left the stadium in a boot cast. Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts hit back-to-back homers in the bottom of the ninth to give the Dodgers a walk-off win over Colorado. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit ca-smp-volunteer.org.
John Legend here. How do I keep my protection against COVID-19 up to date with a COVID shot this season?
You can get your COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC. Ask your healthcare provider and book at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors in an easy-to-apply stick. And it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors.
Use as directed. Vapo Stick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Work is busy. And home? Mom! Pretty much the same. But you wouldn't know it because my skin doesn't look stressed thanks to Olay Retinol Body Wash. Its hydrating formula is packed with vitamin B3 complex plus retinol. I use Olay Retinol Body Wash to transform my skin from dry to moisturized and visibly renewed. Sure, I still have stress, but my skin looks amazing. Try Olay Retinol Body Wash for visibly renewed skin in just 14 days. Also try Retinol 24 Body Lotion.
I spray and scrub, but the soap scum in my bathtub is still there.
I spray and scrub, but the burnt sauce on my stovetop sticks around.
Sprays can leave grime behind, but new Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser combines the scrubbing power of an eraser with the cleaning power of Dawn to melt away tough messes on contact.
Just wet, squeeze, and erase.
Stop spraying, start erasing, and clean with more magic than ever with new Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
You are indeed, and I'm glad about it. We thank Professor Alan Lichtman for coming on to kick off this show today with his prediction, his bold prediction based on his 13 keys, in case you missed it, that Kamala Harris will be the next president of these United States. He's done this 10 out of 10 times, going back to the Reagan days. And so never mind all the ups and downs of the polls that you read every day. His prediction is that Kamala Harris is going to win this election on November 5. So we will see if he goes 11 for 11 just a couple of weeks from now, it seems. But as promised, the conversation now about the crisis, the national crisis facing black teen girls. I'm pleased to be joined now by one of the foremost advocates for those teen girls. Her name is Latara Harris. She's the president of Crittenton Services, and I'm pleased to have her on this program. Latara, how are you today?
I'm great, Tavis. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my honor to have you on. I'm not so sure that in our political discourse, for all the things that we talk about, that there's a great deal of focus on the plight, on the crisis, the national crisis facing black teen girls. Never mind, we have a black woman running for president who went to an HBCU. I'm not blaming her for that. I'm just saying that there's always this conversation about black men, and particularly how black men are going to vote in this election. And I didn't have you on to make you political. I'm just setting a frame here. That we do have these conversations about black men and about black boys, but not so often, it seems to me, about the crisis facing black teen girls. So my first question is, why is that?
It's interesting that you state that, Tavis, and certainly Crittenton Services of Greater Washington, we've been serving girls for over 135 years, black and brown girls, in fact, in more recent years. Of course, back 100 and some odd years ago, wasn't the conversation around black girls or brown girls. But now we certainly have made that a priority and a focus. And so, it's really interesting that you sort of bring that to the light, and we've noticed that as well, which is why you tend to see so many programs that are focused on helping black and brown girls find their way to resources. One of the things that we often say is when we know better, we do better. And a lot of our young folks simply just don't know. A lot of them don't understand or know what's ahead of them. I won't get into any kind of conspiracies or what have you, but, some might say it's by intention, might say it's by design. Either way, whatever it is, we're here to disrupt it, to fix it, and to make sure that we're moving forward on all fronts.
When I refer to what teen girls are facing as a national crisis, that's just language for me, but you deal with this every single day. Those are words for me. Unpack those words for me. What does that mean? What does that look like, Latara?
As teens are dealing with the education on the crisis, absolutely. We have programs that have been in the schools working directly with these teens. We have a unique model, though, Tavis. Certainly, we wrap ourselves around our girls, sort of a wraparound service model, unlike what the schools are really able to do. I mean, you remember a classroom, it's not quite designed for the individual learner, right? Or the things that they're facing, the whole person. But certainly that's Crittenton's focus, is to make sure, of the Greater Washington, our focus is surrounding ourselves around the whole girl. So during the pandemic specifically, and I know you're going to kind of get to some of this as well, we saw firsthand, because we have a unique relationship with our girls. They are on text. We can get to them, just about at any time. There is a trusted sort of exchange with their program leaders or in a small group. And they showed us and they let us know that it was overwhelming for them as they sat home trying to navigate through life as the world still wanted them to move through, looking through a screen, and it didn't respond to them. Some of them are different types of learners. Some thrived, as we know, but many, many did not. And I think we're starting to see the impact of that as we're moving on. So we knew firsthand the young ladies that were dealing with food insecurities. We knew firsthand the young ladies that were dealing with traumas, even sexual traumas within their own homes. We had to move some of the children out of those spaces. So we definitely had a handle and continue to have a handle on that. And it just takes that kind of care and feeding is something that I don't think a lot of, kind of the world is really paying attention to. We're going to need to move into that direction more and more.
I can only imagine how the pandemic, to your reference earlier, Latara, exacerbated these already pre-existing conditions. You mentioned food insecurity. You mentioned trauma. Trauma is a huge category. Give me a better sense, in the audience for that matter, a better sense of the kinds of challenges, these modern-day challenges that black teen girls are facing. I can only imagine that the challenges teen girls face today are not the same as they faced 100 years ago, 135 years ago when Crittenton started. So give me a sense of a broader sense of the challenges that black teen girls in particular face these days.
I mean, certainly we saw a huge gap in learning with the technology advances, right? Many of our young girls didn't have access to technology in their homes. I mean, some of, our organizations were able to get some laptops to some, but then you had issues with hotspots and what have you. So there's a whole sort of delay in some cases that we found because they just didn't have access to the same resources, let alone, the resources that are advanced levels, right? So some students even have computers that are faster moving than others. But there were lots of other issues, including the online, traumas and bullying that young folks were experiencing. I mean, it really does run the gamut in terms of just some of the challenges that our young folks were facing. I know that, for example, one of our program leaders, she wanted to make sure that our girls were feeling still supported, because that's a major, major thing for us, Tavis. Our girls have said to us, we want to feel safe and supported. And during the pandemic, one of the things we do in our groups is we, take them food. So one of our leaders actually took food to 100 houses on her own. We didn't have her do that, but those are the types of folks that I have the honor of working with. She took, Chick-fil-A just so the girls could feel a part of the group. Who knows what might have happened that day in terms of food, but that's the type of things that our folks do at Crittenton.
I want to come back to this notion of bullying in just a second. I got a couple questions I want to ask about that. Before I do that, though, what's it mean these days across the country to make black teen girls feel safe and supported? We all have agency, I think, in that. Not just agencies like yours. Every one of us, though, in the community, has a role to play, I think, in helping these teen girls to feel safe and supported. But what does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be there. You've got to listen to them. You've got to hear their issues a lot. I mean, I've came up in a family where it may not have been often acceptable to have a voice, often. I mean, as we got older, certainly that became the case. But culturally, in a lot of families, black and brown families, that's not the case, right? And so when these young folks are expressing their concerns, we have to be able to listen to them, to what they're saying. They truly have a sense of what's going on around them. I mean, of course, they are struggling with things that they're advancing, in age, but certainly we need to be able to listen to them. We need to be able to respond to them, giving them a seat at the table. And our girls will tell you at Crittenton Services of Greater Washington, we deserve to be heard, and we are seeing it even before you all are seeing it. So you've got to be able to listen to these young folks.
When we come forward, we'll talk about what bullying looks like for black teen girls these days. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
So you may have heard of Project 2025, a plan crafted by Trump and his MAGA loyalists to give Trump virtually unchecked political power and take Black America backwards. Here's how. Project 2025 strips away our voting rights protections, and it eliminates the Department of Education. It would siphon public school funding to private schools, leaving our kids behind. Planning on going to college? Good luck paying for it. Project 2025 cuts funding for federal student loans. Trump's Project 2025 would also make states monitor women's pregnancies, and it bans abortion. Project 2025 would also gut Obamacare, ripping away health care from millions. Simply put, Trump's Project 2025 would be devastating to Black America. But we can stop it by voting for Kamala Harris for president, because we are not going back.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for president.
I was so excited when I heard the sandwich was back. What's up? This is Mike.
And this is Celia.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich
is the symphony of flavors. You can always count on that crispy, tender, juicy chicken. It's so good.
My favorite part is the pimento cheese. Topped off with the honey, it all comes together perfectly. I like the original.
I like the spicy chicken fillet. But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Latara Harris talking about the crisis, the national crisis facing Black teen girls, a conversation we don't often have. We spend a lot of time talking about boys, but not girls. So we're spending a few minutes talking about that crisis for that particular group, what ought to be done, what can in fact be done to arrest that. I was asking you earlier, Latara, to give me a better sense of what teen girls, Black teen girls in particular, face these days, what they're up against. And one of the issues you mentioned was bullying. Give me a better sense of what Black teen girls are up against, how they're navigating this space where they're being bullied.
Sure. Well, through our work here at Crittenton here in D.C., we use a positive youth development model that really teaches young folks how to be stronger advocates for themselves, how to stand up for themselves, and so that they are able to sort of tackle some of what they are experiencing online and in other circles. We've had young ladies that have told us as they're walking to school, and this isn't cyber, this is, that they were getting catcalled by the guys that might be, in the neighborhood or working on things. We've also seen online, and you've seen this too, where these kids are just like airdropping horrible videos across. I mean, how do you, think about when we were in school? How do you even kind of pull back and recover from things like that? And so as a part of our model, we have been successful, Tav, as you should know, in a 99 to 100% graduation rate for our girls year after year after year, and it is because of this model. And so some of what I wanted to share with you, we've heard directly from girls, a direct quote: being a part of Crittenton feels like having a family. The support from our mentors and peers feels invaluable, and it helps me navigate tough times and celebrate my achievements, right? Another, the programs at Crittenton have equipped me with the critical life skills, from effective communication to making healthy, informed decisions about my future. And we have a whole section in there about cyberbullying and how you are to handle that. And at what point, does it get too much where that it's impacting your mental health and the challenges that they are seeing and all of us are seeing over time. And certainly with everything that we're seeing on the social media, it's nothing like when we were in school, but certainly they're having to push up against that. So we're giving the young folks some tools that they can use to push up against that and defend themselves and know when it's necessary for them to take another pivot.
This is a broad question, but broadly speaking, what would you say about the mental health of teen girls today?
Yeah, no, it's a broad question. You're absolutely right, but our girls are in crisis. Certainly, they are struggling with image, and they're struggling with feeling a part of the whole. They're feeling hopeless. I did have a CDC stat that reported that 57% of girls felt persistently sad or hopeless. And that's double the rate of boys, right? And perhaps it's the way that young ladies process or what have you, but it is something that is an absolute priority of my organization. And I can tell you that when people are getting into this business, they need to ensure that it's done carefully and respectfully, and knowing that they can handle the load if it should come. So we had it under our umbrella for some time, but you think about it, I serve 1,100 girls. If I even had 40 of them coming in at the same time, the wait list for them would be longer than most people. And I think that's what we got to make sure that organizations are doing, is trying to figure out what's unique to them and what they can handle. So we now refer out. We make sure that the girls are connected, but we absolutely prioritize mental health, let them know that you need to take care of that as much as you need to take care of your physical health, and let us help you to find a counselor that we know serves your age group.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Latara Harris, I want to ask her about what's behind that hopelessness, that sadness that so many black teenage girls are navigating their way through. Sad to hear that number is significantly higher for black girls, teen girls, than it is for black boys. But there's a sense of hopelessness, a sense of sadness, a sense of melancholy that has gripped them, and I want to know what that's about when we come forward. Excuse me, on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007 they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, everyone, what did you think of the chocolate bar?
It's too chewy.
Feels kind of chalky.
Too much nougat.
I need to go brush my teeth.
Business is booming for Steph's small marketing research firm.
After all these focus groups, there's only one conclusion. I need more researchers.
And she's way too busy researching
Does this have peanuts?
to waste time researching resumes.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Put our matching platform to work so you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Tar Harris, who's president of Crittenton Services in the greater Washington area, talking about the crisis, the plight of black teen girls in our society today. You mentioned earlier the data point about the hopelessness and the sadness that teen girls feel and have to navigate, and it's actually sad to hear that. But tell me more about that part.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I shared is that, sort of coming and looking at this full circle, the words that we are using and how we are messaging, right, and what our children are absorbing and what they are hearing are enough to keep them in a space, right? So you hear things in a space that's not so favorable. You hear things like underrepresented children or it's not the children, Tavis, it's the community. It's not under-resourced child or girl or boy, it's an under-resourced community, right? There's greatness within our communities. Let's just be very clear about that. And so we need to, one, do what we can to change the narrative around what they're hearing and what they're seeing and what they're experiencing. You feel it when you go into a store in the community, you feel it when you go everywhere, but in some cases, you can go into another store or a barber shop and you feel something completely different. And you know the old adage of what we feed grows. We sort of believe that that's a good part of it. I'm not at all ignoring the realities of what we face on a regular basis. But just yesterday, we changed that narrative. We held our Teen Girls Unit Walk on Washington on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. We were extremely, intentional about that. Bringing girls to a space where they feel safe and supported, and that's what we've done to change the narrative. In addition to all the work that we're doing to continue to keep our girls graduating at the 99, 100% rate, we approach it and as I mentioned earlier, when they know better, they do better, and that's exactly what we've been doing at Crittenton.
Latara, I thank you for your work and witness working with these teen girls. 135 years is a long time for any agency to be doing anything, much less looking out for black and brown girls. And so it's a thing to be celebrated. Congratulations on that walk yesterday, this Teen Girl Unity Walk on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. That's obviously that place is full of history. It's a historical location for all the reasons that you and I well know. And so to know that there were a bunch of black teenagers, girls walking in that space yesterday, I hope that you all, I'm sure you did, connected them to the history of that moment and the promise that they have because of all that happened in that space. Thank you for the conversation. Good to have you on. All the best to you, Tara. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hope to see you next year at our walk.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Just like that, hour one is gone. We've got 2 more hours in front of us for some great conversations. You are listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Missouri Governor Mike Parson is considering a clemency plea by death row inmate Marcellus Williams. Williams, who is black, is scheduled to be executed tomorrow for a 1998 murder. A tropical storm or hurricane could develop this week in the Gulf of Mexico. The National Hurricane Center gives it a 70% chance that a system will organize enough to become a tropical depression or named storm over the next few days. Testimony continues today after the jury heard more from Memphis, Tennessee police officer James Harvey on Friday in the Tyree Nichols trial. Harvey spoke of use of force by former officer Demetrius Haley during prior arrests. Chief Medical Examiner Marco Ross took the stand next to explain the results of the African-American man's autopsy. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Staples prints anything you need for your business like banners, flyers, and signs. And Staples will beat any price quote. Plus, now print more, save more. Up to $150 off your print purchase. Offer ends 11/2. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details or staples.com/price match for price match guarantee.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the heroes in the Rams' 27-24 win over the 49ers Sunday was an unknown and undrafted rookie named Xavier Smith, a graduate from HBCU Florida A&M. Playing in his first NFL regular season game, Smith returned a punt 37 yards to put the Rams at the 50-yard line with 42 seconds left in the fourth quarter. 3 plays later, Joshua Carty kicked a 37-yard field goal with 2 seconds left to give the Rams a comeback win. Rams coach Sean McVay gave Smith a game ball inside a jubilant Rams locker room. Things were not so festive inside the Chargers locker room. They lost at Pittsburgh 20-10 and may have lost quarterback Justin Herbert for a while. Herbert re-injured his left ankle in the third quarter and left the stadium in the bottom of the ninth to give the Dodgers a walk-off win over Colorado. No debates, no speculation.